Trump speaking yesterday at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The US president said he will not use force to take Greenland, a territory of Denmark, issuing a criticism against European leaders who have pushed back against his plans. Trump said it was only the United States, as you heard, that could protect Greenland, and he was seeking immediate negotiations with other NATO member countries on the matter. There have been developments on this story, but let's speak to Dr. Oscar van Heerden, Senior Research Fellow for the Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership at the University of Johannesburg. Doc, thanks for joining us. I mean, I know there's so much to discuss on this, so we'll try and keep it snappy. I mean, besides everything that was said there, one of the glaring things that Trump did yesterday was he constantly referred to Greenland as Iceland, which in itself is something, that is almost unbelievable. But we believe that there has been a framework that was agreed to after this particular discussion, and Trump saying he will not go in with force to take Greenland. Perhaps weigh in on this for us.
Yeah, look, I mean, Leanne, thanks for this. The truth is that there has been lots happening behind closed doors to try and resolve this matter. There has been interaction by the State Department and Denmark and the European Union and the Commission to try and find a solution. I think that the Europeans are quite aware that evidently Trump's administration is resolute that they want Greenland. Yeah. I don't think they're going to necessarily get the deal that they got with regards to Alaska, where Canada simply sold it for $1 many decades ago. That's not necessarily going to happen, because I think the Europeans are they realize that inevitably, if there's going to be boots on the ground, America is going to prevail. And so to avoid that situation and embarrassment, I think what the Europeans are now wanting to do is to negotiate a particular deal that is going to, one, potentially guarantee future security. I think they're going to want to bring NATO into the equation, because remember, Leanne, Trump has also threatened a breakup of NATO, wanting to withdraw from NATO, insisting that Europe should pay more for their own security. So there's quite a lot of issues that they feel, the Europeans that is, that they can put on the table to try and find a way out of this impasse.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, still, he continues to frame Greenland as essential to the US and to NATO's security. He emphasized over and over again that this has nothing to do with the raw earth and raw minerals that are there in Greenland. He keeps on framing it as security. What did you make of this? I mean, is this an important aspect of it, and how problematic is it when Greenland belongs to Denmark? It's an autonomous government.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in both issues. It is, by and large, a security matter. We know, for example, over the last decade or more, Russia has really expanded its presence within the Arctic Circle. It has been breaking up ice, developing technologies to get more into the Arctic Circle to exploit resources, but also from a geostrategic security point of view. And of course, talking very much with the Chinese, because the Chinese are also interested in that part of coming into the Western Hemisphere sphere. So there's some truth to Trump saying that there's a security element to this, in very much the same way that they argued with Alaska. Those years, they wanted to be much closer to Russia. They see Russia as the immediate threat. And so I don't think that he's necessarily lying about that. But having said that, I think he's glossing over another important element, which is that Greenland has much to offer in terms of strategic minerals, in terms of oil, and so on and so forth. And that is definitely a consideration on the part of the Trump administration as well.
I mean, we've seen very strong reactions from Europe, really very, very strong, powerful speeches, even rumors, and whether it's a rumor or not, on different walkouts that happened at a diplomatic dinner last night, and just a lot of disagreements taking place. What is this signifying? How serious is this rupture? I mean, also, there's this pause on tariff increases that he threatened, some ridiculous tariff increases on different European nations, because there could be this, this talk of a deal when it comes to Greenland. But what do you make of this?
Look, I think that the Europeans, Leanne, is wanting to put up a very significant, a very serious counter to this proposal of wanting to just take Greenland, because today it's Greenland, what is it tomorrow? So the Europeans are wanting to put up a brave face. But in my opinion, the reality of the situation is that the Europeans have to think beyond the Greenland dilemma. Once Greenland is taken, which I suspect will be the case, because Trump is not going to back down, they are having to think about things such as their trade relations with the United States, their security, because they are very, very dependent on their national security, most European countries, on America, and of course their energy supply. So now that they've blown up the Nord Stream pipeline from Russia, Germany is feeling the pinch, manufacturing sector is suffering. Most of the economies in continental Europe is facing recession. For all these reasons, they are going to have to consider all those things, and they need the United States. You know, Trump says it with such arrogance and bravado that without America, you don't have a country. Without America, Europe doesn't have any security and protection. He might be saying those things arrogantly, but in many ways, it holds truth. For the Europeans. And so, you know, with all the bluster and the perceptions, deploying troops, putting boots on the ground from various European Union countries to try and show that there's going to be some resistance, I fear it's all bluster, it's all just for show, because at the end of the day, the Europeans know that they are going to capitulate and Trump is going to get what he wants.
Yeah, and Trump always gets what he wants. It seems like that's the way things are. There's so much more I want to talk about. I mean, two very powerful speeches that stand out for me. Emmanuel Macron of France when he spoke, and then, of course, Mark Carney of Canada, many describing that as a real defining moment in the history of the leadership that we are currently seeing right now. Very quickly, what did you make of their utterances? And then, of course, it's Trump, you know, belittling both of them at the same time.
Yeah, you know, Leanne, it took me back to my days at Cambridge University, where I was one of the few scholars from Africa trying to outline this double standard, trying to say that this rules-based international order is a farce. It only is for the strong, and we, the weak, in the global south, et cetera, et cetera. And I was called polemic. You know, it's polemical. Stop being so polemical. And so for Mark Carney, one of the G7 leaders, who was part of that privileged class, that, to actually acknowledge that is precisely what it was all along, that they were riding the wave because they were the strong and so forth. It's quite a historic acknowledgement on the part of Canada. And I agree. You know, I tweeted that this is a Churchillian speech of our era, because it is basically saying that Western dominance, the United States hegemonic unipolar world, has come to an end. And it's time to cooperate, it's time for multilateralism, and it's time to take the global south serious. Otherwise, middle power countries such as ourselves, South Africa, is not going to be able to survive if we take this approach of the stick and the powerful. So very, very historic. Macron also acknowledging the flaws. And this is what happens. You know, I always try and think back to the former empires, British and the Turkish, Ottomans and so forth. When it came to their last few days and their last few years, I would imagine some of the allies were the first to actually begin to recognize that the empire is crumbling and failing, and we need to reorientate ourselves in terms of geostrategically.
I hope we can speak further about this, because I think we've just licked off the foam from our cappuccino. There's a lot more to get into there. But I mean, whether it be this issue around the peace board, which we should hear further developments today, and seeing whether or not this actually takes off and what this entails, and also some of these crazy things that he was saying about how windmills don't work and that China makes them but they don't even use them, and climate change isn't real, and just one of those points, and please just tell me a yes or no as I let you go. He told Davos, elites, basically, that in the US economy right now is the hottest anywhere, and that business leaders have never been richer. Is this true? Is this not true? If we take a snapshot of the US economy right now.
It's absolutely true. the tax incentives that he's given the billionaire class, and the kind of technologies that he has been pushing their way, they are by far the biggest beneficiaries of the Trump administration.
So midterm elections
at the expense of ordinary Americans.
That's
at the
another
expense
story.
of ordinary Americans, of course.
So midterm elections, he may just take a clean sweep again at those. But please, we will bring you back. Dr. Oscar van Heerden, Senior Research Fellow for the Centre for African Diplomacy and Leadership at UJ.